friends, welcome to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Katelyn and I like to film eyeshadow palette ranking and review videos, typically focused on indie eyeshadow palettes. But if you like eyeshadow palettes, indie makeup, beauty content in general, I highly recommend that you hit that subscribe button because I post 2 videos every single week. And for those of you that are not new here, my face is happy that you are seeing it again. And I just want to quickly address that I did get my eyebrows waxed today and I have very sensitive skin. So that's why they look like this, and also I have a zit right here. So anyways, that's why my eyes look like this, but we're gonna put some makeup on. Everything's fine, safe, it's all good. It's just a little irritated. Anyways, I was gifted this gorgeous palette. This is the Citrus Punch palette. I was gifted this palette from Simply Posh Cosmetics, and I really want to do 3 looks with this palette just because I think this color story is really pretty and inspiring, especially for summer. So if you just want to get some info on this palette and then also see 3 looks with it, then you should go ahead and keep on watching. First things first, this palette launches on May 12th. I don't recall the time or the price off the top of my head. I will put that information in my description box down below. I will be linking it using an affiliate link, and then I also have a code Katelyn, K-A-T-E-L-Y-N, that saves 10% on Simply Posh products. So Simply Posh sent this palette to me with no obligation to post, but I really love all of their eyeshadow palettes, so I said, let me do a dedicated video on this. Anyways, this palette is talc-free, mineral oil-free, paraben-free, cruelty-free, and has a 12-month open container. It is made in the PRC. There are pressed pigment shades, so if you're not familiar, certain shades are described as pressed pigments versus eyeshadows because in the US there's certain ingredients that have not yet been approved by the FDA for use around the immediate eye area. However, in other countries, some of those ingredients have been approved, but they still have to call it a pressed pigment and not an eyeshadow. So there are quite a few pigment shades. Let's see. Yeah, this is an 18 pan palette. 3 of the shades are able to be labeled as eyeshadows and 15 of the shades are pressed pigments. So here's what the palette looks like. I forgot I hadn't showed the inside yet. So if you're somebody that stays away from the pressed pigment game, 15 out of 18 are pressed pigment, so probably not going to be for you. But like I said, there is no talc in here. There is mica in, it looks like all of the shades. So I think that's all of the info. But yeah, isn't this packaging just gorgeous? Like, I love how Simply Posh has their, I don't know if it's the size or it's just the feel of like the smoothness of the cardboard, but anyways, I just love how they do their packaging. I especially love that it is magnetic and that you can move these pans around, and how they do their layout, which is like columns of color, and it's always like a lighter matte, a darker matte, and a shimmer to kind of coordinate. So if you needed like look inspiration, you can just go do like a 3 shadow look just like straight down in the column if you want more of a monochromatic look. I'm gonna avoid that today to give you some more look inspiration, but I always just like having that layout. It's helpful. Sometimes you don't want to think when you do your makeup, you know? Just want to slap some stuff on your eyes. So that was a lot of talking. Let's go ahead and move on to look number 1. Okay, starting with a Blend Bunny Cosmetics B2 brush in the shade Blood Orange. This is the dark purple. Now, one thing with pressed pigments is I think some people with sensitive skin might not have great reactions. I shouldn't say always. I usually try to swatch palettes, especially palettes where I'm not familiar with the eyeshadows. I try to swatch them before I put them. I just realized I never put eyeshadow primer on. Hold on one second. I am all over the place. Anyways, what I was going to say is I typically swatch shadows before I put them on my eyes just so that I can see how they react to my skin. And I didn't have any adverse reaction to these shades, so I'm comfortable putting the pressed pigments on my eyes. I've never had any issues really with pressed pigments, so like I said, I usually try to do it just to be on the safe side, but sometimes I don't. But if you have never tried a pressed pigment, or you're somebody who's concerned about that or has had issues in the past, it's always a good idea to swatch first. I have really sensitive skin, so that's why even though I've never had issues, I try to, for the most part, swatch shadows before I put them on my eyes, because I'd rather have an adverse reaction on my arm than my eye. You know what I'm saying? Okay, this is the About Face Beauty Shadow Fix Primer. I feel like if you're not new here, a lot of this is repetitive from past videos, but for those of you that are new here, I have a love-hate relationship with this primer. This is my favorite eyeshadow primer I used when I got my first tube of it. I never had any issues, but since I've gotten the second tube, I've noticed more creasing. So it's hit or miss though. Like my eyeshadow formulas that don't typically crease, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just being dramatic. I'm not sure. Anyways. So this is my eyeshadow primer that I use every day, even though it's not as good as I feel like the first tube I had of it. And I'm wondering, it was worse when I first opened it. I feel like now I'm noticing less and less issues, so maybe it's a primer that just needs to dry out a little bit before it's like works perfectly. Anyways, we're caught back up now. Okay, so Blend Bunny Cosmetics B2 brush. This is the shade Blood Orange, and I'm tapping this. We're doing darkest to lightest for this look today because I want to get as much pigment as possible, so I think that's going to be the move. Okay, going in with a slightly bigger brush. This is a ColourPop E21. We're going to take the shade Grapefruit, and I'm going to pack that around where we just put that shade Blood Orange. I will say there's not, you can see the difference between Blood Orange and Grapefruit, but I do wish Blood Orange was a touch darker. I might be able to build that shade up a little bit. When they're right next to each other on the lid, you can see a difference between them, but I just feel like Blood Orange could be like just a tiny bit darker. Let's see if we can build that up. You can always add a black if you ever want a palette to go deeper, so I try not to hold that against palettes because most of us have a matte white or a matte black in some eyeshadow palette. If you don't, I highly recommend you getting a palette that has matte white and a matte black and just referencing that if you ever want to lighten or darken up a palette. Okay, so next we're gonna go into the shade Clementine, that light orange there, or maybe I might go into orange first and then Clementine. I definitely want the orange shades, but I might need a little bit of a darker orange first. Even slightly bigger brush again. This is a ColourPop E17, and like I said, going into the shade Orange. Oh, that is oh, that's pretty. Oh, I'm so happy with this. Oh my gosh, I almost want to just do those like two purpley pink shades in this orange and call it a day. Oh my gosh, that is stunning. Oh my gosh, I'm legit obsessed with this. Girl, oh my god, this is so pretty. Oh my gosh, this orange and this, ooh, so pretty. I'm gonna keep going with my original plan, but wow, that's pretty. Okay, so now we're gonna take the shade Clementine, which is lighter orange, and I'm gonna take this BH Cosmetics number 8 brush. It's from their Crystal Zodiac collection, I think. And now I'm just gonna, I was planning on going, maybe I still will. I was gonna go with the yellow. Maybe I'll just do the yellow shimmer. I was gonna use the yellow matte, but I feel like I kind of added enough mattes, and this light orange is light enough that I don't think I need the yellow shimmer too. But maybe I do. Oh my gosh, this is so pretty. The only reason that if you are looking at this and you're like, ooh, I don't know about that blend, my skin is like so raised and bumpy from getting my brows waxed that it's just causing some issues. Because the blend itself is smooth, it's just my skin is really textured on my lids. I knew I was gonna like this palette because I really love this color story, but oh, this is even better than I was imagining. I'm gonna take a fluffy blending brush that doesn't have any product on it, and I'm just going to use it to soften whatever blends we need here, but like just barely, just to create a nice clean, god, this is gorgeous, nice clean gradient. Okay, so now the question is, do I want to keep this an all matte look and carve out my crease and then do the yellow mattes, or do I want to just go in with the yellow shimmer? I feel like I should do the shimmer. I should do the shimmer. Let's do the shimmer. Okay, I'm gonna take the shade Tangy, which is the yellow shimmer in the middle of that column. I'm gonna spray this with Fix Plus because that's what I always do. And since I had that those mattes up high, I'm kind of having to put this shimmer up high, which is fine, but I just wanted to point out that's why I'm putting it up so high. Oh my gosh, I love this. This is the summer color story that I have been dreaming of. Oh my gosh, this is so pretty. If you're new here, you may not know, but for those of you that are not new here, I feel like I've mentioned it in a few videos recently, that I have been stuck in a creative rut. I feel like I've just been doing the same thing, or I've really had to like force myself to go out of the box. And this color story is just speaking to my creative soul, so that's why I'm having such a fun time playing with it. Now that we've done the yellow, I feel like we kind of have to go into this. This is like more of a pink, but it's like kind of corally. Or do I want to do, I just feel like tangerine's gonna end up being lighter. Ugh, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna flip to the other side. I never mentioned this is another BH brush from the Crystal Zodiac collection. I'm gonna go into Tropical, this shade here. I know it's in the pink row, but it feels more of like a corally pink with like orange to it. So I just feel like it'll go more than the actual orange shimmer, only because the orange shimmer is really light as well. So I want something in the middle. I have no idea what outfit I'm gonna wear with this makeup look or which wig, because this is just like a very bold look. But I will say I'm kind of having to dig my brush into the pan to get the shimmer on my brush, but it's not causing such an issue that I'm not getting it. I just feel like I'm kind of having to work at it a little bit. But you're seeing how it looks on the lid, so you know they're still performing really well. It just feels like they're a little bit hard pressed. But I'm also using a brush on my finger, so who knows. I love that this yellow is like almost like a green. Like I just think that works so well with this palette. Just for gigs, we're going to take the yellow matte and I'm just gonna blend it like out on that outside part to just really make this dramatic. So this is the shade Fizz. This is the lighter of the two yellows. I don't normally blend my eyeshadow out this far, but I thought it might be fun to try. I'm having a blast, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of my makeup. I'll come back and show the lower lash line, so that will be in 1 second for you. Okay, just as a fun side note, I did use the Juicy Cheeks palette from Blend Bunny, and I feel like these blushes pair perfectly with this eyeshadow palette, so I just needed to say that. I did like blush draping. I used like yellow and orange and pink, and I just feel like it complements the look quite nicely, if I do say so myself. So let's do the lower lash line. I don't think it's gonna be anything groundbreaking. I think I'm gonna do the same mattes that I did on bottom that I did on top, but I feel like I should talk about it. So let's do the Cosmic Brushes CB7 brush and the shade Blood Orange. Since I used a lot of mattes, I'm going to try and keep this as close as I can to my lower lash line because I don't want it to get out of control. It can get a little out of control. I don't want it totally out of control, you know what I mean? Also, I used the eyeliner from House Labs, the like chartreuse matte one, because I felt like it complemented the like yellow green shimmer quite nicely. I'm a little bit worried about how these other looks are going to go. I don't know if I can top this one. I know it's not done yet, but I really like this look, how it came out. I don't even know what I was like going into this anticipating. I just kind of went for it, but I really like it. Okay, so next up, I'm going to take the Blend Bunny B2 brush that I used earlier, but I'm going to go into the shade Grapefruit, that slightly lighter pink shade. And I'm just going to run that. And then the next shade that we used, or the next brush that we had used, was the E21 and the shade, what was it? The shade Orange. But I'm just going to go straight into Clementine, because I think that'll still work to blend this out and keep it like similar to what we've got up top. You know what I think is so fun about this palette? I don't think I really have anything that is truly this same exact color story anywhere in my collection. Like I really don't, I like can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm just putting the shade Fizz on like the outer portion just so that we're matching the whole thing. Okay. Now I'm going to take my Sigma E46. This is an inner corner brush, and I'm just going to go into the shade Tangy, which is the yellow shimmer we used. I just feel like keeping it, you know, keeping it consistent. I could have done the yellow matte, I guess, on the inner corner. That might have been fun. I think I'm gonna try and do an all matte look. I feel like this is gonna be a palette that will like, oh gosh, ran into the wrong shade because I was talking about doing an all matte look and then I dipped into the matte yellow. But I think this palette would really be solid for an all matte look. You have so many great matte options that I feel like you could kill a matte, all matte look. So I'll try and do one look that's all matte. Anyways, this is basically the gist of the eye look. I'm gonna finish everything up and come back and show you the finished look before I move on to look number 2. Here is the finished first look. I will get close up so you can see. Let me know what you think of this look in the comments. I am wearing the Jennifer wig from insert name here if you were curious. But yeah, this is the first look, so let's keep it moving to look number 2. Well, look number 2, I don't have a ton of time, but I want to use these 2 corally mattes and then try and do like a pop of like this green shimmer. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to start with this Sonia Kashuk large eyeshadow brush. It's like a big fluffy brush. I feel like these are always good for like packing a shade onto the lid. So we're going to start with the darker of the 2, and that is the shade Zest. And I have again primed my lids with the About Face Beauty eyeshadow primer. Okay, so now that I've pretty much packed that on, we're going to I can't speak. We're going to blend that out into the crease. I'm going to take this Singe Beauty EO2 brush. It's actually kind of a skinny blending brush, but we're going to go into the shade Squeeze, and then I'm going back into Zest. Same brush, but just building this more. Okay, that's basically the crease, and now I'm actually going to take the shade Tasty. That's the shimmer that's in this same column, and I'm going to put this just on the lid because I want to show you guys how, like, before I do my extra stuff, that you could just get a really easy look with any of these columns. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier in the video. Like, you can just keep it a monochromatic look. Like, and that's just with my finger. I didn't do anything special to that. You just get that hint of sparkle. And it just looks so nice. But a monochromatic, like, neon pop, like, on the lids is actually just such a pretty look in my opinion. But yeah, you could just leave it there and be done. Or you could leave it at the mattes too, whatever you want to do. But I actually think I want a slightly fluffier brush just to blend out these edges a little bit more. So this is a Singe Beauty EO3 brush, and I don't have any product on. I'm just gonna run this along where that shade, what was that, Squeeze, went. And I might get a little bit of squeeze on my brush actually, just to diffuse this up a little bit more because I used a smaller brush. Had I just gone in with this more fluffy brush in the first place, probably wouldn't have had to do this step, but that's okay. So now I'm going to, I thought I was going to do it with the green shimmer, but do I want to do it with the green matte? I'm going to do the green matte, I think, actually. So I'm going to take this Sigma and Samantha Ravndal winged liner brush. It's like a really skinny winged liner brush, and we're going into the shade Lime. We're doing a shadow wing with this shade. You could always use like a cake liner or something if you like have a different palette, or you know what I mean, like you don't have to have this palette to do this, is I guess what I'm trying to say. But you don't have to have whatever palette I'm using for any of my looks to do those looks. But I just always like to remind people that you can all be better than me and not buy all of the new makeup, you know? We don't need everything. I kind of just like this with like the green. I'm going to turn this into a graphic liner, but it's kind of fun with just a green. I also could have carved out like like the liner that I wanted to do with a like concealer or eyeshadow base so that this green was popping more, because I'm layering it over the coral shade and it's not like, that's not helping the green be as pigmented as it could be. Or like I said, I could have done a cake liner first, could have done a lot of things, but I just wanted to show this without any extra help. But if you're watching this and are like, oh, I'd like that if the green was more pigmented, there are some ideas on how to get there. I haven't totally decided if I'm just going to put the green sparkle over this green, so that's why I'm also not too worried about it. That's basically going to be the eye look. I'm going to do the same stuff off camera. come back and either show you the lower lash line. If I'm just doing these two corally mattes and not anything that interesting, I will not be showing the lower lash line. I'll just come back with the finished look, but you're gonna find out in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I am running super late and my dogs are freaking out because they can tell that my mom's dog's about to be here any minute. So here is the finished look. I did do the yellow shade. Which shade was that? Fizz on the inner corner. That's the lightest of the yellow shades. I feel like that added like a nice fun pop. But let me know what you think of this look in the comments and we will move it along to look number 3. Okay, today we are doing look number 3 and I have like 7 shades I haven't used in this palette yet. So I'm going to do my best to use all of them today. So today's look might be all over the place. I know earlier in the video I said I would do an all matte look. Let's count look number 2. It's like a little bit all matte look. Like you could just have taken that shimmer off. The rest of it was matte. It just had the shimmer on the lid. So it's about as close to an all matte look as we're getting. Anyways, also my allergies are terrible and I have this giant zit on my nose and we're just gonna keep it moving, but my allergies are driving me bananas. I think what I'm gonna do is find a brush. I'm gonna take, this is a Milk Cosmetics tapered shadow brush, and I'm going to take the shade Citrus, which is this pastel green up at the top, and I'm going to work that in the inner part of my crease. I'm not taking it all the way across, just for a pop of green on the inner portion of my crease, like so. Then I'm going to take this Singe Beauty EO3 brush and we're gonna go into the shade Lemon, which is the darker of the yellows. And we look like a pastel Sprite can, but we're gonna add more to this yellow part in a second. That yellow builds up really nicely to be like a true, like kind of sunshiny yellow. Next, I'm gonna go into the shade Quench, which is this like corally, lighter pink-ish shade. I'm gonna take this Singe Beauty EO2 brush. It's a kind of a smaller blending brush. Also, I would love to do a look that's just the pinks and yellows because a strawberry lemonade type vibe with my eyeshadow always makes me happy in the summer. Okay, so next we're gonna go into the shade Punch, which is the darker of like the corally pink shades. I'm gonna use this LBE 3 brush from Lunar Beauty. Okay, I think that's basically going to be the matte crease. I'm gonna just soften that edge just a tiny bit. Okay, so the shimmer shades, so I've used all the mattes that I had left of the 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we've used the 4 mattes that I had left. So I have 3 shimmer shades left. So we have Sour, Tangerine, and Flavorful. So these are the 3 shimmery shades we have left. Let's see how we want to do that. I almost feel like the green is the lightest of them because it has like a, depending on the reflect. I think I'm gonna, because I'm nervous, I'm gonna go the orange shimmer, green, purple. That's what we're gonna do on the lid. So it won't quite like match the green to the orange that we kind of have going on, but it'll be okay. All right, so first shade I'm gonna go into is going to be Tangerine, which is the orange shimmer here. And I'm going to, I have a Milk Cosmetics Sobra Plana brush, and I'm going to spray this with Fix Plus. And I'm just gonna put this on the inner like third of my lid and take it into the crease a little bit. Definitely reflecting more pink than orange. That's okay. Okay, so next we're gonna go into Sour, the green shimmer, and I'm gonna flip to the other side of that same brush. Again, spray it with MAC Fix Plus. And I think somebody's asked me this before, but I always pick up the shade on the brush and then spray it with Fix Plus. Although I do go back in, so I'm not totally avoiding cross-contamination, but I'm kind of avoiding it. I don't know if I love these shimmers next to each other, but it's okay. This is kind of like a kitchen sink look. Just whatever's left. I'm just slapping it on the eye, seeing how it goes. I just don't think this green shimmer and this orange shimmer are playing the nicest together. Okay, so now using this like freebie ColourPop brush I got, we're gonna go into Flavorful. And I will say this shimmer shade feels like the most hard pressed. I don't know if it has like a different formula or what, but we'll see how it applies. I mean, it's pretty. It just has a different texture, but it is pretty on the lid. It actually shows up more pigmented than the other shades have. They're more like sparkly toppery. This one feels like really opaque. I'm adding some of the green over it to just avoid having such a harsh line with the shimmers, just to help them blend a little bit more. And then I don't like if my matte's darker than my shimmer, so I'm just building punch back up so that that's the whole look. But that's basically going to be it. I haven't decided what I'm going to do liner wise or anything else, but I'm going to do same mattes on bottom that I did on top. I haven't decided on the inner corner yet, but I'll show it all just in a finished look, and then I'll share my full thoughts because I have officially used this palette 3 times and every single shade in it. So I can give you my review on it. I feel like I've played with it enough. I've also swatched it, so I got an idea. So anyways, stay tuned. Here is the finished look. So I did the yellow and like corally mattes on the lower lash line. On the inner corner, I just used my face highlight, which is the Solar Sailor highlight from Katelyn's Makeup. So let's talk about my thoughts on this palette. So I have worn the other 2 looks all day. So as far as longevity goes, I didn't have any issues with like creasing or fading that are like abnormal for me. I do have some creases in my lids, so I tend to have creasing. I did feel like these lasted better than some other eyeshadows I have, so I would say as far as longevity goes, it's really nice. Mattes are bright and pigmented and blend so nicely, but you could even just like this green right here, like that alone would just look amazing. Like they just look so nice. The shimmers for the most part are this like these 2, if you're looking right here, they're that like toppery formula. You can kind of see where it like looks all pink, and then if I turn a certain way, sometimes you get that hint of green coming through on that one shimmer. So if you like more of an opaque shimmer, you might not like some of these shimmers. I would say for sure like these up, like these 1 2 3 4 5 right here are all that like duochrome, sparkly, shifty, special type of shimmer that's not necessarily an opaque shimmer. It's more of like a sparkly reflect effect on the eye. This one feels really hard pressed, but it definitely is the most opaque out of the bunch, and it doesn't have as much of like a glitzy sparkliness to it as the rest of these, but it does still have a duochrome effect. So those are my thoughts on the shimmers. I think this color story is gorgeous. The most like neutral low-key look you're getting is if you took my second look and took away the graphic liner and just did like the corals in this. That's about as close to like a neutral low-key look as you're getting, and even that is really punchy. This is called Citrus Punch, so I feel like it is aptly named. So if you like bright, colorful eyeshadows, I think you'll love this palette. If you're more of a neutral lover and a little bit scared of color, this might be a little bit too bright for you. There's very limited ways to tone it down. I will say I do like that they have, you can just go in the monochromatic brows, so you could do that with the greens, the yellows, the corals, the oranges, whatever. But again, these shades are very pigmented, so you're still gonna get that bright pop of color no matter what. So just keep that in mind. But overall, I think this palette is definitely worth it. I have to like, it's so hard because I feel like this might be one of my favorite palettes this year. Like this one, the Blend Bunny Lure, and the Nomad Verona Amore y Morte, like those are my top 3 so far, I think, if I'm thinking about it. Anyways, on that note, I will say some of the shimmers felt like hard pressed, where I really had to agitate the pan to get something to come up on my brush. But once I did that, they worked fine. Similar to what happened for me in the Verona Amore y Morte palette, where some of those shimmers were just a little hard pressed, but I was able to agitate them and get them to work for me, no problem after that. But I don't think I had the ones that were an issue that Nomad had to re-release. But just a forewarning that if you're like, nothing's coming up, just like dig a little bit deeper in these pans and you shouldn't have any issue. But also be careful, test yours, because I don't think I've seen other people. I haven't really watched any other videos on this palette, so maybe I don't know, but I haven't heard my friends say that they had that issue, so it could just be certain palettes were like a tiny bit more hard pressed than others. I don't know. Anyways, overall, really like this palette. I will be doing, this palette will be included in a palette palooza, so I'll be sharing like thoughts on it. I'm sure I will reach for it again between now and then. Maybe, we'll see. I have a lot of makeup that I'm trying to test out right now, but definitely this palette, it might be perfect. I don't know. It could be like a 9.5 out of 10, 9.75 out of 10. I just hate, like, I'm like, I don't know if I can give any palette a perfect like score. You know what I mean? But anyways, let me know what you think of these looks. Which of the 3 looks was your favorite down in the comments, and I will see you all next time. Bye.